Morning, everyone. We are recording now, and I wanted to mention that it is absolutely mandatory for those who are crediting the course to put their digital signature on the document. So basically, you have to put your name in the academic integrity statement, and you have to agree with that statement, assuming that you have followed it accordingly. So please make sure that you put your name and your collaborator's name. And if you haven't collaborated with anyone, please put none over there, right? So if anyone misses out or makes any errors in this part, then there may be a penalty for the same. Okay. All right. Are there any questions or concerns pertaining to the assignment or anything we have done so far? Okay. If not, then let's just go quickly. So I'm using the same file today. I'll just update the PDF on Piazza. So in the last lecture, we defined the connectivity or the vertex connectivity of a graph, kappa of G, which is the minimum taken over the local connectivity between any two vertices for all distinct, all pairs of distinct vertices. Okay, so the function P of UV, just to remind you, is the number of internally disjoint, pairwise internally disjoint paths between the two vertices. So in this drawing here, in this graph here, P of UV is 2, and for XY, it is 3, right? And the connectivity that we have defined is basically, in some sense, saying how well are any two vertices of the graph connected, where by how well we mean how many pairwise internally disjoint paths can we find between them. Okay, so that is the way we have defined vertex connectivity. What I want to now, so this is a slightly, let's say, an optimistic viewpoint. How well are two vertices connected? Now I want to take a slightly pessimistic viewpoint. How poorly are two vertices connected? Okay, so okay, and let's make this rigorous. So what we are going to say is, how many vertices do we need to remove from the graph in order to destroy all the paths between two specified vertices x and y? Okay, so the more precise or formal question we are asking is, how many vertices do we need to delete in order to destroy all xy paths? So in the remaining graph, there should be no xy paths, right? There are some issues with this question that we need to address. Can someone tell me what are the issues with this question, or problems if you like? Okay, well, clearly, if you delete one of x and y, then doesn't even make sense, right? I mean, then clearly there are no paths left. The vertex itself is missing. So we are not going to allow deleting x or y, right? So that's the first thing. We won't delete x or y. So that is fixing the first problem. So I'm writing the solutions to the issues. And there is another problem. Can someone tell me what the other
X
problem
and Y
is?
have a direct edge, like they're
Exactly.
adjacent.
Exactly. If x and y are adjacent, then, well, you can delete as many vertices as you like, and x and y will always remain adjacent, given that we are not going to delete x or y. We've already established that, right? So we need the, I'm going to use this notation, which is not used in Bondi Murthy. We are going to assume that x and y are non-adjacent. Okay, so when I put a tilde between them, I mean they are adjacent. In other words, xy is an edge of the graph, and otherwise they are non-adjacent. Okay, so we are going to make these two assumptions. They are not adjacent, and we cannot delete one of those vertices. Okay, so that brings us to a definition. For two vertices which are distinct and non-adjacent, we are going to define an xy vertex cut. Okay, we already know what edge cuts are. We call them cuts. Now we are going to define a vertex cut. Okay, so it is exactly what you think it is now. An xy vertex cut is a subset of the vertices apart from x and y, such that x and y belong to distinct components in the resulting graph after deleting this set of vertices. Okay, in other words, they are no longer joined by a path. Okay, we may also say we may also call this a vertex cut separating x and y. Okay, and so now the question we are going to ask, well, let's go back to our question that we have already asked. How many vertices do we need to delete in order to destroy all xy paths? And clearly, what is interesting here is the smallest number of vertices, because otherwise you can just delete all the vertices except x and y. That works, right? So you want to ask about the minimum number, right? So here we are interested in the minimum, right? And so that brings us to a definition. C of xy is what we are going to call the local vertex cut function. Local because it is referring to two specific vertices rather than the whole graph, all pairs. Okay, so this is going to be the minimum size of an xy vertex cut. All right, and this is going to be undefined, as you've already said. When either x is y or x and y are adjacent. Okay. So, well, we have defined two functions so far. The local connectivity function or the local vertex connectivity function and the local vertex cut function. Okay. And clearly, once you have these two, a natural question is, how are these two related? So supposing I take two vertices, not the same and not adjacent, then how are these two quantities related? Can anyone tell me? There is an easy relation that does not require any theorem. I claim that one of them is always less than equal to the other.
Cxy should be less than p.
Let's write it down.
Less than equal.
Cxy is less than equal to pxy. Is that correct? How many of you agree? How many of you disagree? So let's read what this is saying. Supposing I have, supposing I need to delete at least 5 vertices from the graph. Let's say that is the number of vertices I need to delete. So that is the C function value. Then you're saying that I should be able to find at least 5 paths between the 2 vertices, internally, pairwise, internally disjoint.
I think the opposite will be true.
Right. So anyways, these things are confusing. I always mess it up myself. So yeah, when you think about it a bit harder again, or a second time, you see that it's actually the converse. If there are at least 5 paths between 2 vertices, you have to delete at least 5 vertices, 1 from each path. And so that is clearly true. P of xy is less than or equal to C of xy. So probably a better way to think about it is in the other direction. The number of vertices you must delete is at least as big as the number of pairwise internally disjoint paths between them. Let's just make a quick drawing. So if this is x and this is y, and you have, let's say, 3 pairwise disjoint paths, okay, something like this. Well, then you must delete at least 1 vertex from each path in order to disconnect x and y. Otherwise, they will be connected by a path and they will belong to the same component, right? So does everybody agree that these are? Yes. So there's a comment, CXY is a minimum set. Yes. Right. So what I have written here means that they are equal. However, this statement is not immediately clear. Not immediately clear why this is the case.
No, wouldn't they be equal always?
They are equal, and that is Menger's theorem. Right. So I was trying to not use any theorems. So if you don't use any theorems, then this is what you get, which is the same thing written twice. Okay. And the key point of this lecture, and maybe next, hopefully we can finish it today, is we will be proving Menger's theorem, which says that these 2 quantities are actually equal. Okay. And this needs a proof. I'll give you all a few minutes to think about it. It could seem very well when you first, when you see these definitions for the first time, it could very well seem that they should be equal. But when you start thinking about it a bit more, you see that that's not immediately clear. It really needs a proof. There is no reason why these 2 quantities should be equal. So let me put it differently by a drawing. Supposing there are 3 paths between 2 vertices, or let's say 4 paths, okay? This is the maximum number of paths, pairwise internally disjoint paths. It is not clear that if this is the maximum number of paths, then there is necessarily a way to pick vertices from these paths so that when you delete these vertices, there is no path between x and y. Why can't, for instance, there be a strange path lurking in the graph which goes like this? Just because you delete 1 vertex from each of them or each of these paths does not mean that you have disconnected the 2 vertices. There could still be a path in the graph. It's just that you cannot add this path to the internally disjoint paths already because it's not internally disjoint with them. Right? Okay. But Menger proved back in 1927 that in fact these 2 quantities are equal. Okay. Are there any questions, concerns? All right. If not, let me put down a few more definitions. So we have defined an XY vertex cut, but we can also define a vertex cut, which is just any set of vertices that disconnects 2 vertices. So A vertex cut is any xy vertex cut for some x and y vertices in the graph. I want to ask a question. Do all graphs have vertex cuts? Do all graphs have a vertex cut? The question has essentially been answered before, but it's in a different form. I claim that there are graphs that do not have any vertex cuts.
Complete graph?
Exactly. Complete graphs or any graph whose underlying simple graph is complete, because we are allowing parallel edges and loops and everything. Any graph? The answer is no. Whose underlying simple graph is complete. Does not have a cut word, does not have vertex cuts, right? Okay, good. And another thing we are going to use, we might use, is a k vertex cut. A k vertex cut is a vertex cut of cardinality k. Okay. All right. So then our next goal is to prove Menger's theorem, which is theorem 9.1 in Bondi-Murty. Okay. For any graph G, so I need the assumptions. This is the main point of the theorem. What we need in the theorem is a graph G, two vertices x and y, where x and y are not the same and they are non-adjacent. Okay. So then, sorry for writing it in a non-linear fashion. Hopefully it's clear what I mean. Okay, so we are now going to proceed to see a proof of this theorem. And it's going to be our first non-trivial application of induction. So let's proceed to see a proof of theorem 9.1, Menger's theorem. Menger's theorem has many different forms, both for graphs and directed graphs, digraphs, and for vertex and edges. So if you want, you may call this the undirected vertex version. We won't be covering any directed versions in this course. The edge version probably will be on the assignment. Okay. Good. And as I said before, this is our first non-trivial, fairly non-trivial use of induction. If you are used to standard induction proofs, proof for k, then proof for k plus 1, then this one is going to dazzle you, which is not a bad thing. Let me just get some water. Okay, so before we get started, are there any questions or concerns? Anything that's not clear? We should address it now. Okay. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so let's start. So I am following the proof in Bondi-Murty. I think it's a really nice proof. I'm not sure who it is due to. I've forgotten that information. but it's I think it's a really elegant proof. Elegant, of course, is subjective. Let's get started. Okay, so we are proving by induction on the number of edges of the graph. Okay, I'm not going to write down a base case, and I suggest that you, for now, don't think too much about it. Think about it the following way. We are going to start with some graph G, and whenever we get a smaller graph, we are going to assume that Menger's theorem is true, right? That's the whole point of induction. And that's going to be our way of proceeding. Of course, asking for a base case is a totally valid question, but I just don't want to address it right now. I want to delay it further. Okay? So try not to worry too much about the base case right now. Just remember, the moment we get a smaller graph, we are going to assume Menger's theorem is true for that graph, and we are going to use that to establish it for our graph G. Okay? All right. So for the sake of convenience, let K be the connectivity between the two vertices X and Y, right? So we have a graph G, and we have two vertices X and Y that are not the same and they are non-adjacent. Okay? And our goal is to show that if the smallest cut separating X and Y, vertex cut separating X and Y, has size K, then there are at least K pairwise internally disjoint XY paths, right? In other words, we want to show that P of XY is at least K. And I will be writing subscript G because we will have other graphs. So we want to make sure that we are referring to the correct graph. Okay. So, okay, good. Doesn't look like a P. Let me make it better. Okay. All right. So there is an easy case that I want you to deal with on your own as a homework problem, which is the following. Every edge in the graph is either incident with X or it is incident with Y. Okay? Each edge of G is either incident with X or with Y, possibly both. Oh no, it can't be with both because they are non-adjacent vertices. I'm sorry. Okay, good. So this is one case that I want you to think about on your own. Okay? Do it yourself. So now we are going to assume that there are no such edges in the graph. We now assume, that there exists an edge that is not like this. We now assume that there exists an edge E with ends UV such that U and V, neither of them is the same as X or Y. Okay? In other words, your drawing looks like this. You have X, you have got Y, and you have got this edge UV. In particular, your graph has at least 4 vertices. Okay? Okay. Good. So we've got this edge, and now I want to think about the graph after deleting this edge. I'm removing just this one edge from the graph. Okay? I've got a smaller graph. Smaller, by that I mean a graph with fewer edges than the previous graph. Okay? By the induction hypothesis, because I've got a smaller graph, Menger's theorem holds for this graph. So, by the induction hypothesis, in the graph H, these two functions have the same value. the maximum number of pairwise disjoint paths is equal to the minimum cardinality of an XY vertex cut. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to compare these two graphs H and G and make some observations based on that, right? So let's make some observations. What can we say about these two? Okay, let's see. Let's write down the functions I want to compare. What can we say about these two quantities? What is a relation we can establish immediately about these two quantities? H is a graph obtained by removing one edge from the graph G. What can we see about the number of pairwise internally disjoint paths between the two vertices? Right. Okay. So in other words, the left-hand side is less than equal to the right-hand side, right? The number of paths cannot increase when you delete an edge, right? Thank you. Okay, so this is easy to the point that I won't even write down anything. Okay, and now I want to ask you about the other two quantities. What can we say about these two? This is not as easy, but let's make a drawing. How can we compare? Supposing I take a cut, XY cut, vertex cut in the graph H. So supposing this is your graph H, and I have this set of vertices which separate X and Y. So X is in one component and Y is in another component. How was H obtained? H was obtained by deleting one edge from the graph, and this edge is not incident with X or Y. Right? So that edge could be like this, it could be like this, or it could be like this. In all cases, I claim that we can easily find a vertex cut of G by appropriately modifying the set S. Can someone tell me what I would do? If I want to now get a vertex cut, XY vertex cut in the graph G, what would I do? So there are three cases. One, for the edge E, 2, and 3. What do I need to do in order to get an XY vertex cut in the graph G? Okay, these two cases are easy, right? 1 and 2 are easy because then S itself is a vertex cut in G. Let's look at the third case. The edge E goes between the two components. Let's say this is U and this is V. What would I do in this case to get a vertex cut separating X and Y in the graph G?
Either take U or V.
Exactly. So if you give me any vertex cut in H, then I can add the vertex U or the vertex V and get a vertex cut separating X and Y in the graph G. In other words, the left-hand side can never be greater than the right-hand side plus 1. Okay? All right. So I'll just write down the explanation for this. If S is any XY vertex cut in H, then S plus U, or if you like S plus V, are XY vertex cuts in the graph G. Okay, and that is the explanation for this inequality. Can we say that the right hand side is so there is a question on the chat box. Can we say that the right hand side in this okay, so here is a question. Can we say that CGXY is greater than equal to CHXY? So the number of vertices you need to remove in order to disconnect X and Y in the graph G has to be at least as many vertices you needed to remove in the previous one, in the graph without the edge. So that does seem to be true. Is that right? If I could separate X and Y by 3 vertices, deleting 3 vertices, then with the edge E, I will need to delete at least 3 vertices. Yes, that is correct. So that does seem to be a correct statement. But we are not going to use it. Okay, so we are going to use the one we've written down. But yeah, this also seems to be true. And it would be nice to see if that gives us any further information. Yeah. So let me just say that.
Sir,
yeah.
but I mean, like, so in the end, that would mean that CG can be either CH or CH plus 1.
That's right.
Wouldn't that be too restrictive?
That is actually true. So yeah, so that's a good point. It's not restrictive, it's true, right? I mean, so let me just write down what you said. CGXY is either, what are the 2 options you told me? It's either
CH or
CHXY
CH plus 1.
or CHXY plus 1. That is true. Those are the 2 possibilities because you have just removed one edge from the graph. So another way to think about all of this discussion is that if you just remove one edge from the graph, then things are not going to change that much, right? The connectivity, the local cut function between X and Y is either going to remain the same or it's going to increase by 1 because you need to now delete either the vertex U or the vertex V. So yeah, so that is true. Okay. Good. But one of these cases, does everybody agree? Is everybody with me? So this is another way to state what we have discussed, including what Shivam suggested on the chat box. So one of these 2 is true. Either it's equal to the one in H or it's 1 more than the one in H, the function in H. Okay. All right. So let us write down what we have. Let us write down all the inequalities we have so far. So let's go back here. This is at least this, which is equal to, because Menger's theorem is true in the graph H, right? So this is the induction hypothesis. And this we know is at least CGXY minus 1. This is the same inequality as this one. And this is equal to K minus 1 because we set this value to be K, right? Okay. So these are all the inequalities we have deduced so far. So now, let's think about what happens if this is a strict inequality. If this is a strict inequality, by that I mean it is a greater than instead of greater than equal to. Okay, then I would be able to say that the number of paths between X and Y is at least K. right? If this is a strict inequality, then I'm going to get at least k for this value, right? Because one of them is a strict inequality, so it has to be at least k, and then we are done. Because remember, what we want to show is that there are at least k paths between x and y, where k is the size of the minimum xy vertex cut. Okay? And so there will be nothing to prove. So we only need to deal with the case where this is not a strict inequality. In other words, this is actually equal, right? So we need to deal with the case when CHXY is actually equal to CGXY minus 1. Let me put this in different words. It might seem a bit of a symbolic manipulation kind of business, which is never good for math, at least not for graph theory, I can say for sure. So let me put it slightly differently. Supposing, so let me, okay, so think about for a moment this value to be 4. Okay, I want to deal with a specific number 4 to make it easier to think about. Okay, so what is 4? 4 is the size of minimum xy vertex cut. It's the minimum number of vertices I need to delete in order to separate x and y in the graph G. Now I've removed an edge E, and this number, the minimum number of vertices required to separate x and y, can either remain the same or it can go down by 1. If it remains the same, 4, then by Menger's theorem, in this graph, I have at least 4 paths. And because I've only removed an edge, these 4 paths exist in the original graph, and I'm done. So I can assume that the number of the cardinality of the minimum xy separating set vertex cut goes down, because if it remains the same, then I'm done by induction. That is essentially the crux of everything we have written so far. Okay, all of this stuff we have written so far is basically saying that if this quantity remains the same, then you will have at least 4 paths in the graph H, and these 4 paths exist in the graph G. There is nothing to prove. So you can assume that the size of the minimum xy vertex cut goes down, but we know it can only go down by 1. So if it was 4, now it could be 3. And that is the case we need to deal with. Okay? Is all of that clear? So I prefer to not get lost in these equations and inequalities. I think they're very confusing. But this is what we are trying to say here. Okay? So this is the situation we need to deal with. And what is this? This is equal to k minus 1. So it was k, and now it has become k minus 1. Okay? Let me take a quick look at how much time we have. We have another 9 minutes. Let's see if we can finish this proof. I might go over by 2 to 3 minutes, but I'll try to finish it. All right. So now, what we are going to do now is we are going to take a minimum xy vertex cut in the graph H, which will have size k minus 1. So if it was 4, now it will have size 3, right? And we will now look at this cut and see if we can again apply induction in a very innovative way to complete the proof. Okay? Are there any questions? So we are going to take a minimum xy vertex cut in the graph H. Okay, good. Let's make a drawing. And again, I'm going to suggest that you make one assumption in your mind and think of the proof with that assumption. And then after the lecture, you can think about what happens when that assumption does not hold. The whole proof will go through just as it is. I'll just tell you what that assumption is in a minute. So I've taken a set S, which is V1, V2 up to Vk minus 1. Okay? This is a minimum XY vertex cut in the graph H. There could be many such cuts. We are taking one. Okay. And what does it mean to be an XY vertex cut? It means that when you delete these vertices, there is a component that contains the vertex X, and there is another component that contains the vertex Y. We are going to call this component capital X and capital Y. So we are going to refer to the vertex sets of these components as capital X and capital Y. Okay. Now you might say, well, why can't there be more components in the graph after deleting this set? Yes, there can be. I'm not going to draw them in this picture. So for now, I suggest, for this lecture, I suggest to assume that X union Y union S is the whole vertex set of the graph. In reality, there could still be more components not containing X or Y. There is no problem in that. But for the sake of the lecture, I'm going to just omit that. And I suggest that you don't worry about those. The whole proof is going to go through, even if we don't care about those. Okay? So then this is my drawing with this implicit assumption in mind. Okay. Now, where is the edge E? Where is the edge E that we have deleted? That is what I want to ask you now. Where do you think is this edge E? Remember, S cannot be a vertex cut in the graph G, because in the graph G, the size of a minimum vertex cut should be more than k minus 1. It is exactly equal to k, right? So the edge E in particular cannot be like this, because then S would be a vertex cut in the graph G itself, an XY vertex cut. Okay, so it kind of seems clear that E should be like this. Let us write down formally why this is the case. Since S is not an XY vertex cut in the graph G, there exists an XY path in the graph G minus S. Right? That is what it means to not be a vertex cut. And if you think about any path in the graph G that goes from X to Y, little x to little y, after deleting the set of vertices S, such a path has to, at some point, go from the big set X to the big set Y. Right? But then this must be the edge you have deleted, because there are no such edges in the graph H. So the edge E has to be the edge that belongs to this path and goes from big X to big Y. Okay? And such a path must include the deleted edge. Okay? So now I may adjust notation. So this is a term I really like. I wish people used it more in math. I may adjust notation so that U is here and V is here. Okay, I'm not making any assumptions. I'm just adjusting notation. Okay, so hopefully I've convinced you that this edge that you deleted has to have one end in big X and the other end in big Y. Okay, let's see how much more time do we have. Okay, fine. I think we can probably finish this proof. All right, so far so good. Any questions? Okay, if not, we are going to now do something really cool. We are going to construct a smaller graph. We're actually going to construct two smaller graphs in the following way. This big Y that you see, we are going to shrink it into a single vertex. Okay, that's going to be one of our graphs. And the other graph you can imagine symmetrically is going to be when you shrink big X into a single vertex. And then we are going to apply the induction hypothesis on these two smaller graphs. Okay. And I will say a few words about why they are smaller, although I think you might already see that. Okay. So let me make a quick drawing here. So we're going to keep the graph as it is, except for the big set Y. So let us keep everything else as it is. And now we are going to shrink this big set Y into a single vertex, and I'm going to overload the term Y here. Y also refers to the shrunken vertex in this new graph. Okay, and we are going to use the following notation. This is going to be G shrink Y. G shrink Y, where I have shrunken it to a small vertex Y. And for shorthand, I will just call this G shrink Y. Okay, so what do I mean by shrinking? You can throw away all the edges inside Y, they don't matter anymore. And any edge that goes into the big set Y now goes into the shrunken vertex Y. Okay, in particular, the edge E now looks like this. And I'm still going to call it E. Okay, so there is some overloading of symbols here, but it's better that way rather than introducing primes or something for all of these things. Okay. Is it clear how we got these this graph G shrink Y? I will call this G shrink Y. Okay, good. So let us look at this graph. Why is this graph smaller than the original graph? Can someone tell me why is this graph smaller than the original graph? Why does it have fewer edges than the original graph?
Because V and Y are not same and there must be a path between.
Exactly. V and Y are not same. We made that assumption early on in the proof. We chose the edge E accordingly, right? And therefore, there are at least some edges in the big Y. And so the number of edges has definitely gone down when you shrink big Y. Okay, so this is a smaller graph. In particular, it satisfies the induction hypothesis. Menger's theorem is true for this graph. Okay, so that's something we are going to use in a bit. Let me make some other observations now. Okay, so here is the first observation I want to make. Each XY vertex cut in the graph G shrink Y is an XY vertex cut in the graph G. So, of course, the Y I'm referring to in the first clause here is this guy. So I claim that anything that is an XY vertex cut in this graph G shrink Y, that set of vertices is also an XY vertex cut in the original graph G. So think about it this way. What you're going from G shrink Y to the original graph G, how do you do that? You blow up the little y into the big Y, right? And if you think about it that way, it becomes clear that if something was a vertex cut in the smaller graph, it will also be a vertex cut in the big graph after you blow up that one vertex into a big component. Okay, so that's the way to think about it. What does this mean? This means that the size of any XY vertex cut in this new graph has to be at least k. Okay, if you could find something smaller, then it would also be a smaller vertex cut in the original graph, but we know that in the original graph, it has size at least k. In fact, it is exactly k, right? So in this small graph, it has to be at least k. Okay, and there's a second observation I want to make. Okay, so we know it is at least k. I claim that you can actually find an XY vertex cut here of size k. Can someone tell me? Find an XY vertex cut of size K by looking at this drawing. Can you tell me that there is actually an XY vertex cut of size K here? Take the set S and then delete one more vertex, U. S plus U, or if you like S union U, is an XY vertex cut in the graph G shrink Y of size K. And that actually means that I can turn this greater than equal to into an equal to. Okay? All right. So in this smaller graph, the size of the minimum XY vertex cut, where Y is the shrunken vertex, is exactly equal to K. Because this is a smaller graph, by the induction hypothesis, I can find K paths between X and Y in this smaller graph. By the induction hypothesis, there exists K internally disjoint paths, XY paths, P1 to Pk in the smaller graph G shrink Y. Okay, so there are these K paths in this graph, has K, XY, pairwise internally disjoint XY paths. So what can you say about these paths? Well, each of these paths will have to use one of the vertices from this set S plus U, because that is an XY vertex cut of the same size, right? So we may adjust notation so that the vertex Vi belongs to the path Pi for all I up to K minus 1. And the last vertex, the last path will contain the vertex U. Okay, so that is just adjusting notation of these paths. So P1 uses V1, P2 uses P2, V2, and the last one will use the vertex V. Okay, so I've got K paths between X and Y in the graph G shrink Y. I am 5 minutes over time, so I'm not going to complete the proof today. I'm going to give you the main point and complete it tomorrow and ask you to complete it yourself. So in this graph G shrink Y, you've found K paths between X and Y, pairwise internally disjoint paths. Now what you can do is you can take another graph G shrink X defined in the same manner as G shrink Y analogously. And in that graph, again, the same analysis, the same reasoning will apply because it's symmetric. And so you'll get K paths in G shrink X. Now think about how you will use these K paths in both these smaller graphs to get K paths in the bigger graph. Okay, so here is try it yourself. There exists K such paths in the graph G shrink X. You've got K paths in G shrink Y. You've got K paths in G shrink X. And now try to construct K paths in the big graph G using these 2K paths that you got. Okay? And that will be the end of the proof, because what you wanted to show is that there are at least K paths between X and Y in the graph G, pairwise internally disjoint paths. Okay? And we will complete this proof tomorrow, and we will also discuss other considerations in the proof, but we can also do that right now if you like in the next 5 minutes. But the lecture is officially over. Any questions, concerns? If not, please go through this proof carefully, whatever we have done so far. and think about each point carefully.
So why can't path P1 to Pk minus 1 not use U? Like, why can we assume that?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Why can it
Like,
not use?
we assuming that paths P1 to Pk minus 1 are not using the vertex U.
Oh no, we are not assuming anything.
Like,
You mean this part here?
yeah, I mean,
Right. So think about it this way. So there is an xy vertex cut in this graph G shrink y, right? And this is the cut V1, V2 up to Vk minus 1 along with the vertex U, right?
yes, sir, okay.
And you also found k paths. So then each of these paths has to use exactly one vertex from this set. This is, in other words, this is the easy direction of Menger's theorem. If you find a cut, if you find so many paths, then you can, and you have a cut of the same size, then each path will have to use exactly one vertex from that cut. Let's not confuse it with the easy direction of Menger's theorem. It's a bit different from that. Does that make sense, Ravi?
Yes, sir. I just got confused with the notation.
Yeah. So all of these paths have to use exactly one vertex, and we are just adjusting notation in this manner. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Anyways, as I said, this is really, in some sense, the first truly non-trivial proof that we are covering, which uses induction in a very clever manner. And in fact, it left me scratching my head for quite some time after I read the proof, because the last time I'd read such a proof of Menger's theorem was several years ago. And after reading this, I was just like, that's a very interesting use of induction. Okay, if there are no more questions, let me stop recording. I'll still be here for another 2 minutes, let's say.